Stephanie White, wake up, snap out of it. Snap out of it. The expansion draft, you need to protect your players. You have just a few days left to do that. There's a lot of big business going on. We got teams getting sold, all types of stuff. You need to figure out how you're going to build the roster around Caitlin Clark. What are you going to do with Kelsey Mitchell? But no, I cannot believe Stephanie White is still running around, wasting time on a bunch of nonsense, and then had the nerve.
Stephanie White is out here on ESPN breaking down college teams and praising offensive firepower. Meanwhile, the expansion draft is right around the corner, and the Indiana Fever roster needs serious attention. That alone should raise eyebrows. This is the same coach who spent last season criticizing Caitlin Clark's explosive scoring, labeling it as hero ball. Now suddenly, she's applauding teams for having offensive weapons? Fever fans aren't buying it anymore. The frustration is real. At what point did the head coach of the Indiana Fever decide that analyzing UConn versus South Carolina mattered more than actually building a championship-caliber roster around the most dynamic offensive player in the WNBA?
Okay, Caitlin Clark, the return of the GOAT in year 3, coming back to win the MVP and the WNBA title. Yes, that is what she is coming back to do. Now, we had a bunch of hiccups and mental blunders last offseason. Stephanie White, Kelly Krauskopf, Amber Cox. You guys went and got DeWanna the Scammer Bonner, who ran off with the money. And let's be real, Stephanie White, you never even fully addressed that problem. You tried to sweep the DeWanna Bonner situation under the rug and say nothing about it.
And this is where everything comes to a head, because now it's not just about philosophy, it's about accountability. At some point, the conversation has to shift from what's being said to what's actually being done. Because right now, the gap between those two things is getting harder to ignore. If offensive firepower is truly what separates good teams from great teams, as Stephanie White just emphasized, then the next step is obvious. You build around it. You maximize it. You lean into it. And in Indiana's case, that means fully committing to Caitlin Clark's strengths, not trying to reshape them or limit them. Because let's be real, players like that don't come around often. You don't get many opportunities to build around a generational offensive talent who can completely change how defenses operate the moment she crosses half court.
We got to look at an article, and Stephanie White had something to say that really just was mind-boggling for me. It was a real head scratcher all the way around, and we've got to dive into it. This is courtesy of Sports Illustrated, Grant Young, okay? Now, it says, Stephanie White explains why South Carolina can't keep up with UConn. First of all, why the hell are you still talking about this college stuff? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you still talking? You went and did your gigs. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? You need to be focused on the Indiana Fever right now. You're more concerned with if South Carolina can have a competitive game with UConn.
That's not something you manage cautiously. That's something you build aggressively around. And this is where the pressure starts to build. Because now fans are watching closely. They're listening to what's being said, and they're comparing it to what they saw last season. They remember the moments where the offense slowed down unnecessarily. They remember the games where Clark's rhythm was disrupted. They remember the hesitation instead of full commitment. And now, after hearing all this talk about offensive firepower, the expectation is simple. Prove it. Prove that this team is going to lean into what makes it dangerous. Prove that the system is going to adapt to the talent, not the other way around. Prove that this roster is being built with a clear, consistent vision. Because this offseason isn't just another offseason, it's a defining one. The expansion draft is coming. Free agency decisions are looming. The direction of the team is about to be shaped in real time. Every move matters. Every decision sets the tone for what this team is going to be moving forward. And when you have a player like Caitlin Clark, the margin for error shrinks. Not because she creates pressure, but because she raises expectations. When the talent is that obvious, the question is no longer, can this team compete?
Right now, nothing, absolutely nothing, is more important than getting the proper pieces around Caitlin Clark so that we can have a successful season. I don't even know why you're talking about them right now.
The question becomes, why aren't they maximizing it? That's where Indiana is right now. At a crossroads, between potential and execution, between philosophy and identity, between what's being said and what's actually happening. Clapperboard outro, and that's the real story here. It's not just about comments on ESPN. It's not just about college basketball takes. It's about direction. It's about consistency. And it's about whether this team is ready to fully embrace what it has. Because if they do, the ceiling is high, really high. But if they don't, then all of this, it's just noise. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts below. Do you think the Fever are heading in the right direction? Or are they missing a huge opportunity? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay locked in for more fire too. And honestly, it's not even the fact that she's talking about college basketball. That's not the real issue. The real issue is what she said. On ESPN, White made it clear she believes South Carolina doesn't have enough offensive firepower to beat UConn. She went on to highlight how efficient UConn is, how deep they are offensively, and how having multiple scoring options is the key to winning big games. Now here's where it becomes impossible to ignore the contradiction, because this is the same coach who spent last season downplaying Caitlin Clark's offensive brilliance. Remember those games against the New York Liberty? Clark was pulling up from deep, way beyond the arc, hitting shots that felt unreal. She had the entire arena on its feet, completely taking over offensively. It was must-watch basketball. And what was White doing on the sideline? Arms folded, looking frustrated, calling it hero ball, like it was something negative. That disconnect is exactly why fans are questioning everything now. Section 3. So let's really break this down. When Caitlin Clark showcases one of the most explosive offensive skill sets the WNBA has seen in years, it's labeled as a problem, something that needs to be controlled. But when UConn displays offensive firepower at the college level, suddenly that's the blueprint for winning championships. That contradiction doesn't just stand out, it's glaring. The logic required to hold both of those viewpoints at the same time is honestly mind-boggling. And this isn't new behavior. Last season, White tried to reshape the entire offense by making Aaliyah Boston the central playmaker, essentially turning a center into the primary decision-maker just to take the ball out of Clark's hands. That approach ignored one key reality. The Fever already had one of the most effective offenses in the league before that system was introduced. Clark's scoring ability is the reason the team became relevant in the first place. Yet, instead of maximizing that strength, the focus shifted to forcing a system that limited it. Now fast forward, and White is publicly emphasizing how offensive firepower separates good teams from great ones. That lack of consistency is hard to ignore. It's frustrating, but also revealing. Because right now, the focus shouldn't be on college matchups. It should be on the Fever's future. The expansion draft is approaching fast. Golden State will be selecting players from existing WNBA rosters, and Indiana is going to lose someone. That means tough decisions need to be made. Who stays? Who goes? Who fits the long-term plan? Caitlin Clark is untouchable, that's obvious. Aaliyah Boston is also a core piece. But beyond that, the questions start piling up. Kelsey Mitchell is entering free agency. Does she fit alongside Clark long-term? Can the team afford her? When they played well together, it looked promising, but there were also moments where their styles didn't fully align. That needs clarity. Boston, on the other hand, needs to be used correctly. She's not meant to run the offense. She's at her best scoring inside, rebounding, and protecting the rim. That's where she impacts winning the most. Then you look at the rest of the roster. The defense struggled last season, which is ironic given White's reputation as a defensive coach. Where are the defenders? Where are the wings who can lock people down? Where are the veterans who bring toughness and accountability? These are the real questions that need answers. But instead, the focus is on college analysis, breaking down offensive efficiency, debating matchups, and discussing teams that have nothing to do with the Fever's immediate future. And this isn't a one-time thing. White has been involved with ESPN and the Big Ten Network during the offseason before. There's nothing wrong with that in general, but timing matters. Priorities matter. At some point, the main responsibility has to come first, and that responsibility is leading the Indiana Fever. Especially right now, when the WNBA offseason is in full motion. Free agency is active. Trades are being explored. The expansion draft is looming. This is when coaches should be fully locked in, making calls, evaluating talent, building a better roster. not offering hot takes on college basketball. And then there's the philosophical contradiction. White built her reputation as a defensive-minded coach. That's what she was known for in Connecticut: discipline, structure, defensive execution. That's exactly why Indiana brought her in, to add defensive stability to a team that could already score. So why is the conversation suddenly centered on offense? Why is offensive firepower now the deciding factor when evaluating teams? If defense is truly the foundation, shouldn't the focus be on how teams stop great offenses, not just how they create them? Instead, the message keeps shifting. When Clark dominates offensively, it's criticized. When others do it, it's praised. And that inconsistency is exactly what fans are starting to notice and question.